All right, question of the day 3 is about understanding vectors' uses and its advantages. And this assignment is a perfect example of when we want to use a vector, because we are going to make a personal symbol that can be used in lots of different ways. Once we finish proving ground 1, we will create a refined sketch where we clearly understand what will be black and what will be empty space. So these are not black and white symbols or logos. These are black shape symbols. All we create is the black shape, so that it can go on a green t-shirt, it can go on a red t-shirt, and it would still be really clear. Right? And then we will be adding color in assignment 4, but the most important thing is that your black shape reads clearly. Now, one approach to this, I'll just show you some of these past examples. These were for different themes, not personal patriotic symbols. But you can kind of take things that exist and mash them up. So this is kind of inspired by the Chicago Bulls logo, turns it into like a barbecue place logo. This kind of takes, this is called the extinct tweets, right? It takes the Twitter bird and turns it into a zombie. This takes different oil companies and turns it into this flower, right? So you can use existing symbolic language and integrate it into your ideas. That's what I call a logo mashup. So you could take some of the existing patriotic symbols, whether they're from our military branches or whether they're just from our national identity, and you can mash them up with your own ideas. But for this proving ground, you want to approach it in these 3 approaches: symmetrical, dynamic, and a play of positive and negative space. So this one's mashing up a butterfly with electricity. These were the ones, my original sketches for the barbecue. And in order to get full credit for your proving ground, which you always want, you want to pay attention to these rubrics. So we need to create at least 3 rough thumbnail solutions. And they should consider central, symmetrical, dynamic, and a play of positive and negative space. So if you've done that, and you've posted them so that other students can critique them, you get full marks for that part of the rubric. And then the second part of the rubric's very simple, but you got to remember it. You need to respond to at least one participating class member, giving them your opinion and your input on their thumbnails. You have to indicate in your response. You can't just say, "Great job, I love it." You have to say which one of their approaches you prefer, that you think has the most potential to make a good finished vector, and basically why. You know, what's good about it? What should you push forward? You can say any suggestions you have or critiques, but you want to focus it on the one you think has the most potential. Because a lot of the times thumbnails, you end up with some approaches you just definitely aren't going to do, but they help you get to the approach you are going to do. So if you can do that, and if you respond to a fellow student and you give a clear preference and a comment about it, that will get you full marks. If you just respond to a student but you aren't clear about which one you prefer, you can only get half credit for it. All right. So now I'm going to start the proving ground assignment by posting my sketches. But I'm not done with it until I've commented on someone else's sketches. So I went ahead and posted mine. And of the sketches I did for the thinking about kind of the winged serpent imagery, these are the 3 I think worked the best for me. So I have a central symmetrical approach. I have a dynamic approach. And I do kind of like this one. And then I have a play of positive and negative space. And I might have my favorite, but if I'm a student in the class, I wait until someone hits reply underneath and comments on it, and I take that into account before I go to the next step, which is understanding or making a refined sketch of one of these. And if I have time, I'd love to just do all 3 of them. Because if you approach a vector in like the right way, they don't need to take a lot of time to do them well. But it takes time to learn the process. Right? So now I'm going to come around and comment on your sketches, give you some input, so that when you post or when you edit your post, you feel strong about what you're putting up. And do please label them. So label 1 is central symmetrical, label 1 is dynamic, and label 1 is play of positive and negative space. Even if you don't exactly get that right, it helps the people that are responding to you know which one you're talking about, right? All right, I'm going to pause it here. Come take a look. All right. So once you've kind of narrowed down your sketches and you've put them, then you get to refresh, see what other people have posted, and see what catches your eye, and then give comments on what you think is the most effective approach, right? And even though we sketch with lines, what we're indicating are full shapes. That's why we spend so long talking about the advantages of vectors. And then if you want to see the comments put on yours, just look underneath. If it says there's a reply, take a look. See if that input helps you in what you choose and how you proceed. So you want to think about their scalability. You want to think about their versatility. And you want to think this way, right, rather than this. Because we're now just making our own original imagery, right? And some of you really like to draw, and I really like to draw. But this does not make a good logo, right? Even if I decide which shapes would be black. It's just way too fussy. Instead, you want to think what can be kind of the cleanest, chunkiest shape. So when you're evaluating other people's sketches, think where would those black shapes be? What has the most graphic impact? Now, for those of you who love this and are having trouble simplifying, we will be doing this in our next assignment. We'll be doing spot illustrations. And illustrations can be more decorative kinds of line art because they don't need to be as versatile. But we want it to be nice and clean so that we can then draw and make all of these vector shapes as clean and professional looking as possible. And often we do that by building up from basic shapes. All right. So looking at these, once I've commented on someone else's and I've posted my own, now I'm ready to move on to assignment 4 and pick which one I want to do a refined sketch for. And I think this is the one that's the most interesting. My Chinese zodiac symbol, I'm the year of the snake, so I'm kind of integrating that into the American eagle here. So I'm going to use the play of positive and negative space right here. And to clean it up, I can just do something as simple as this for my refined sketch for assignment 4. I'm going to make a screen grab of it. Command-Shift-4 on a Mac. Targeted screen grab. And then I'm going to open that up in Photoshop, and I have my tablet. I could also do this by hand, but it gives me more opportunities to improve it if I do it with Photoshop. Now this is raster. This is pixel-based. You can see those pixels. But I'm giving myself a good plan for it. So what are some of the advantages of doing a refined sketch in Photoshop? I can use my guides to kind of find the center line. And then I can make a duplicate of it, Command-J, and then use Command-T and warp or distort or skew to make it just a little bit more balanced, on those center lines. So to make it as clear and as engaging as possible, I want the center of the little kind of forked tongue flames that double as the eagle's talons to be right on that center. And then I also want that center line to go between the snake's eyes. And I think it's okay if it rests on the eagle's head there. Okay, the next thing is I want to maybe make this snake's head a little bit more symmetrical. So this is very helpful for when you're doing central symmetrical design. There's a few ways I can do this. One is to simply copy this side, and it will stick to your guides when you use your lasso. Simply take that and then duplicate it, Command J, and then Command T and flip horizontal that duplicate, and then just move it over. And I can get it kind of placed exactly where I want it. And then if I need to trim it so that the neck works, I can do that here. So that I can decide, do I like that symmetrical snake head better? Yes, I do. All right, makes a big difference. But I could also do it the other way. So I can select, turn on my grid or my guide, and I can select this side instead. It will stick to my grid, duplicate it, Command J, Command T to transform it, right click, flip horizontal, and then move that to the other side. Woohoo. About there. Then I just want to move it just a little bit away. And actually, I think that one's just a little bit more angular, a little bit stronger. So I can either do this, that's option one, these are refines, or this. And I think that's a little stronger. I like that. So I'm finding ways to improve my drawing. If I want the bottom to be similarly symmetrical, right? What do? I find that center line. I select it, copy it, duplicate it, Command T, flip it horizontally, and move it to the other side. Vectors are ideal for doing kind of perfect symmetry, right? Having perfect control of your shapes. And you can see how that just looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit more professional. But I don't want to like clean it up to death and lose whatever energy I had in the original. So the last thing I try is I try stretching it. So I'm going to now merge all the visible, hold down Option and say Layer. Going to be on the last visible layer. Layer Merge Visible, like we did for our animation. And now my clean sketch is all in one place, right? All the components that built it. We can see how it's changed from when I brought it in, from my sketchbook, right? So just little changes, but it tightens it up. Makes it more symmetrical. See how the snake's head and eye and tongue has all changed. And now I'm going to make a duplicate of that combined, and I'm going to hit Command T, and I'm going to see if I hold down Shift and I just squish it down a little bit. Do I like that better? I think I do. Better a little bit compressed rather than quite so tall. Or I can do the opposite. Command J, Command T, where computers are very helpful, and I can make it a lot taller. And that doesn't hurt the symmetry of it at all, or the balance of it. But what do I like? And actually, I think